Hi there and welcome back to Japan and to our continuing listen through to Brand New Made by BAND-MAID. And just in case you were watching this video straight from the beginning, two things you need to know. First of all is the fact that there is a link in the description below which will take you to a playlist, including this video, of our listen through to every track on the album, one at a time, finishing with a conclusion. And second of all, just in case you weren't aware, this is an 8-track album of which 5 of the songs we'd already heard before I came round to it. It's surprising how many of the songs from this album were treated like singles. And I think a lot of the reason for that is obviously it was a quick turnaround between this, I think it was 7 months between this and the album before, which was the one that they kind of regarded as cementing their sound. So clearly they're trying to get more songs onto their repertoire and really trying to bolster up the BAND-MAID discography, get themselves more music videos and really establish what they wanted to be. So anyway, we're moving on to track 4 now. I once again have made the critical error of not actually writing down what the song is called. I've just got it loaded up on my player and ready to go. That headphone popped out of my ear. Let's try that again. Everything is failing today. But the one thing that I would say is, well, I'm sure I'm going to say a couple of things, but the one thing I'm going to say right now is the fact that this album is one that, like I say, it has a lot of songs that I already knew, having heard 5 songs before I actually dived into this album, weren't my favourite BAND-MAID songs. This is a band where there isn't any songs that I don't like, there's none that I dislike particularly, but I have favourites and lesser favourites. And none of them have really struck me as being amazing, but having heard the second track, I was actually quite like, yeah, that's I think it was Look At Me, the second track. That's pretty good. Anyway, you clicked on the link already, so you know what I'm about to listen to, even if I don't. But this is track 4. Just stitching over and press play. I like the rhythm already. Okay, so another riff-based verse. But it's a good riff, this. Does it pay off in the chorus? It's kind of got this feeling to it that it's somewhere between like country rock and cabaret. It's got a crazy sort of showy sort of feel to it, which comes along with that type of rhythm sometimes. So this is kind of before they had that habit of really making the second verses really interesting and different, which I think came with them actually writing their own songs, but nice little touch with the acoustic there, and that bass is brilliant, as always. Here comes the bridge. You can make or break a song in the bridge. Who's playing those keyboard bits? Because I love that. All right. Ooh. Right, so there's a few things to say about this one, because in a way there's not a huge amount that stands out about this one, and yet there are some things that are very, very noticeable. So in some ways it sort of seeps into the background. I can understand why they treated it as an album track and it wasn't treated as a single, and yet in some ways you can really, really sort of pick apart why this one's different from the rest of the album. So let's actually get into explaining that rather than repeating the point, which is that, first of all, obviously, when it comes to the more differing elements, we're looking at the fact that you've got that tripleted rhythm, which, like I say, it's not the first time they've used that, but it's throughout the entire song. And this, like I say, that sort of 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 sort of swinging rhythm that this has got. It works in this. It gives it, like I say, that slightly more bluesy country rock sort of sound. It takes it away from just being another hard rock sound, which is thumping along 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. My air conditioner, I think that's what just beeped. Something will go right in this review, I swear. So basically, I'm waffling. The air conditioner's going crazy. We will get there. Where was I talking? Yes, the tripleted beat. That kind of worked in giving this whole song a different feel. And like I say, combined with the vocal style, sort of Psyche really throwing her vocals in the chorus. And there was this feeling that it kind of, like I say, was somewhere between like a show tune and like a country rock sort of tune, blues rock sort of tune. I think that worked in that this really played to a lot of their qualities, both as musicians and as a sort of vocal and performance aesthetic. Now, the guitar solo again was brilliant, but one of the things that really worked in this, because actually the guitar solos are always well played with BAND-MAID, but it's a big thing. It's about how they're presented, how they come along with the arrangement, what's happening underneath. It can't just be the guitar on its own. It's got to be part of the whole arrangement. And there was those little keyboard bits in there, which again were playing towards this sort of blues rock sound of having like an electric organ in there. And they really worked for me. There's the accentation, there were just little blips and bits here and there, and they really helped. And I don't know if that was the producer's choice, if it was part of the writer's arrangement, or if it was something the band decided to add themselves, and if so, who played it. I just thought that was a really, really good touch, and it did actually give this a lot of identity. Sometimes it's those tiny little sounds that just kind of catch the ear here and there that actually give the song the identity, that you embed it in your memory more, even if what essentially is happening is just another guitar solo, and no disrespect to guitar solos, it just on that basis, but sometimes you need that extra thing to set it apart and actually make it stand out and make it sit in your memory as being something different, something identifiably different. And that little keyboard choice to have those keyboard bits in really helped. Now, when it comes to a song arrangement, one of the reasons why this song kind of doesn't stand out so much is because of the fact that, again, as, like I say, in the aftermath of Thrill on the previous album being such a big song, and as you guys have told me in the comments, like I said, I really appreciate you guys are leading me through this, and I'm making every effort not to do too much research myself so that I can learn about the band from my reactions and from hearing you guys give me comments. But as you guys have mentioned, Thrill was really the song that on the previous album, it cemented them, it made them decide this is what we want to do. It made the record company, I'm sure, say, okay, this is what you're going to do. And it, cemented them with a sound. But that whole idea of the song is based on a riff and then you put in a chorus to break that up, or maybe a pre-chorus, that was the theory that obviously had worked with Thrill, and you hear that on quite a few of the songs on this album, I think, but this is a very clear example of that. You start with a riff, the verse is played through, it's just the continuation of the riff with some minor arrangement changes, the singing happens over the top, you get a little pre-chorus and then a chorus. Now, some people might say, oh, but Howard, that's just normal. Not even for all rock, you look at a lot of rock, even look at their most recent stuff, you look at like World Domination, which obviously is an album they've written themselves. A lot of it is not really riff based, the riff stops at the verse, and then the verse has its own sort of melody and chorus, sort of sound happening, its own development, its own progress. I'm sure there was a better word for that I didn't think of. But when it comes to songs which are riff-based, it's about just sort of keeping you rocking, almost like the way a dance track does in an electronic version. When those EDM tracks, you keep a loop going. With this is the rock equivalent of that. And to me, it's not the most interesting way to write, although it is definitely the most infectious way to play live, because people just get into it, and like I say, it works like a dance track. I do think their own self-written stuff, and no disrespect to the writers, by the way, I know that these sorts of albums, when you have staff writers, they're written to order, or the record company and the artists are choosing the songs based on the sound they want to project. But their own self-written stuff later, does indicate more of an interest in actual, song structure and writing arrangements that go somewhere more. Riff-based stuff, like I say, is fun and enjoyable, but tends not to really lend itself much to progression. So this song doesn't feel like it really progresses anywhere. Doesn't really feel like it so much builds from the beginning to the end as just sort of goes through. But the way it does that is interesting. Like I say, it has like nice little sounds, has nice little rhythmic touches, and I actually, one of the things I really like about this album that I'm starting to notice is that I really like the way that it's mixed. There's a lot of you hear a lot of the little higher sort of sounds that come off the instruments. There's like little from the drums when Akane is playing, you're hearing like little bits on the cymbals and things you don't hear in some of their more muddier sounding albums. And I am thinking slightly of World Domination in this particular instance. You're hearing things coming off of the top of the instruments. You're hearing more the sort of the almost like the clang of the strings. You can almost feel like you can hear the plectrum going through the strings on this album. And the way I like that, because you hearing the musicianship a lot in this, the little touches and flourishes are more audible, even though this is not the band at their musically most developed. I mean, as I've said, I know that they might have developed as musicians through their careers, but I do wonder if that's also partly because now they're writing their own songs, they have more freedom to just play it however they want to. I suspect a bit of both, but in this case, you certainly can hear the musicianship on this album. I think is presented very clearly in the way it's mixed and produced. So, yes, this is one of those songs where if it came on, I wouldn't skip it. I say this sometimes, and I think this is true of most album tracks. If it came on, I wouldn't skip it, but I would be hard-pressed to think about it. If I was thinking, I want to listen to BAND-MAID's song, this would not be one that came up. It would just kind of be one of those ones where it came on and you go, oh yeah, that's that really cool, like sort of... sort of country rock or blues rock style tripleted beat BAND-MAID song, and then you play it, you'd listen to it, it'd go away, and you'd forget about it. But it's a good song in its own little right. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, this channel's about the comments, so please get in the comments. Tell me what you think. Do you disagree with me? If so, tell me why. Like and subscribe if you'd like to. Remember, they got the little bell thing you have to press now. We've had all the social media stuff is all being advertised at you while I was talking, and in the description below there's all that stuff, including a link to a playlist where you can go through all of our reviews to this album, including the 5 out of 8 that were recorded in advance, because like every track on this album appears to be a single. Anyway, for now, from Japan, thank you so much for tuning in, and ciao ciao.